Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to English grade 11, and I very warmly welcome you to the Chase Academy. I'm your instructor, Zia Hamid. I hope, students, that you are doing well. Students, today we are going to begin our new chapter, chapter number 6 of grade 11, and this is an introductory lecture where we will go through all the different SLOs that we will cover in this upcoming lecture series of our new chapter. So I hope that you're following the previous unit's SLOs and you're learning about how we achieve these learning outcomes using different activities and also resources. So since this is an introductory lecture, let's start with our lecture number 1 that we will be covering. So for lecture 1, the SLO is right in front of you. This is related to vocabulary. As we always do, we begin with grammar and vocabulary and then move on to reading and critical thinking, then oral communication, and then the writing SLOs. So, the SLO is identify and correctly use patterns of word changes. This is very much important that indicate different meanings or parts of speech. For example, if we have a word analyze, so with making alterations and following a pattern, we can make the word into analysis and also into another kind of a part of speech, another kind of classification. We can make the word analytical. Same goes for the word advocate, and we can also make up and use the patterns of word changes to make different meanings, and it also changes and alters the classification of the part of speech. So it becomes advocacy. So it means that in this lecture, we will understand that how words are made, how there are different established patterns using which we can make different words from the root word. These are called affixes, where we add prefix at the start of the root word and suffix which we always use at the end of the root word. So in this way, we can generate so many different words and we can know about their categories and we can use them accordingly. So this is about vocabulary, and we will learn a lot about the techniques of forming different words from one word, as you can see over here in the examples. So this is going to be a very good and interesting lecture, so you must follow it and learn about words, because words make up our ideas, and through learning vocabulary we can be good readers and ultimately good writers, good listeners, and also good we will have good comprehension ability. Now, in the very next lecture, we will talk about verifying the preliminary determination of the meaning of a word or phrase. For example, we will be checking the inferred meaning in context or in a dictionary. So, I would request you students to arrange a dictionary with you when you are following the lecture to have a better understanding. So, we will follow that there is an inferred meaning, the implied meaning that we need to find out, and how can we check it. For example, you are aware of that a word is having different meanings, contextual meaning and also denotative meaning. So we will see about that, and we will learn about finding the inferred meaning of any word. The second learning outcome, again, it is about dictionary, which means that this is also about vocabulary. So when we are having our dictionary, we will consult general and specialized reference materials. For example, we have dictionaries, glossaries, thesauruses, both print and digital. We know that we can access these resources in the print form, in the hard form, and also we can access them using different platforms, using the PDFs, digital formats, and also using the internet to access different websites of dictionaries. Now, by doing so, we need to learn that how to find the pronunciation of a word or determine or clarify its precise meaning, its parts of speech, or its etymology. Now, students, as a good learner of the English language, we need to be very much aware of these resources that we are talking about and how we can utilize it to the maximum so that we can learn words by our own using different things in a word that is associated with a word. For example, we can find about the way the way we should be saying that word. We can find the origin of the word, different examples, sentences, and all the different meanings, whether it's contextual or denotative. So, next one, this is about your grammar competency. The SLO is demonstrate knowledge and application of parts of speech in oral and written communication in the varying degrees of complexity. So, previously we have learned a lot about all those different parts of speech. We covered noun, pronoun, we have covered verbs. So, we will cover adverbs and adjectives in this lecture, and we will see that how they have different variations, different manners of adverbs, different degrees of adverbs, and also for adjectives. So this is related to our grammar. So now let's talk about the very next SLO. These are the SLOs that we will be covering about reading comprehension. So if you're reading any text, you need to have some skills in order to get the most meaning, in order to get the most out of the text. So here in lecture 4, we will cover 1, 2, and 3 SLOs. First one, we will use our inference skills. Read and use inference and deduction to recognize the hidden meaning, the implicit meaning. For example, the supporting details that is found in a text or a paragraph. We can use our prior knowledge and also the contextual clues that we have talked about. So we will read any text and try to infer the hidden meaning, and we can also answer comprehension questions at the end. So this is an SLO, this is a SLO that requires your reading skills. Next one, we will make inferences to draw conclusions. Now, why do we infer? To get something, to get a conclusion from the text. We will cover contextual information. What is the writer's viewpoint about the certain topic, about the main idea or the theme of the text, and the implied information which we need to uncover as good readers. Then, lastly here, we will explain whether predictions about the content of a text are acceptable or should be modified and why. Now, students, when we are reading a text, while we are reading it, we are making predictions. And we will see that either these predictions are acceptable or should we be patient, read more, and alter our understanding. So these 3 SLOs will make you very good readers. We will follow these SLOs one by one with examples, resources, and other activities to make you a better reader so that you can solve any kind of reading comprehension passage followed by all those comprehension questions that talk about inference, that talk about finding the hidden meaning, the writer's viewpoint, and also implied information. Next up, this is also about our reading comprehension, where we will summarize the complex concepts, process, or information by paraphrasing. Yes, we will talk about paraphrasing using correct language structure, transitional devices, own words, and relevant punctuation marks. We will be reading some poems and see that how we can paraphrase those complex poems easily in our own words. And obviously, we will follow the punctuation marks. So we will revise some basic punctuations as well in order to avoid any kind of spelling error or punctuation error. Then, secondly, we will evaluate different points of views. So these different points of views are first person, third person narrative. We also have a second person point of view, but in narratives, in stories, first person and third person are these point of views. These narrative styles are mostly used. So previously we have talked about these point of views, but we will elaborate them with more examples and real life examples, passages, paragraphs, so that we can elevate our understanding. Next up, for lecture 6A, explain whether predictions about the content of a text are acceptable or should be modified and why. We will revise this SLO specifically, and then we will attach it with evaluate two or more central ideas of a text. When the text is longer, it's complicated, and it contains more than one central idea. When it talks about more ideas and concepts, it means that we can identify two or more central ideas of a text and not only evaluate them but also analyze. This is our very important word, that how these two central ideas are developing over the course of the text, including how they interact and build on one another to provide a complex analysis. So this is for your analytical skills when you are reading something. So we will see that how do we deal with multiple central ideas in a same text. In the next lecture, dear students, we will talk about read, view, and analyze a variety of reading grade appropriate and high interest books and texts from print and the non-print sources. So in this one, we will talk about poetry, free verse, narrative, and rhythmic, personal recounts like diary entries, biographies. What is the difference between these type of writings? What's a diary entry? What is a biography? The purpose, the audience, all of these things will be covered in this lecture. So, in one of the previous lessons of the last unit that we covered, we talked about all these three different types of poems. We will revise this SLO with more examples, and we will practice our poetry types and how we can identify and paraphrase different kinds of poems. Next, we will again, this is about reading to analyze application, letter, report, summary, biography, and autobiography. So now we have different text types. We have a letter, a report, any summary, biography, and also a type of biography which we call autobiography. Now we will understand these different text types. How do we deal with them? How should we get the most out of these different text types and understand them better? Next, we have our oral lecture of demonstrating attentive listening skills while working in groups and taking turns to speak with standard pronunciation. This is going to be an oral communication class, so you must join this. Be very much attentive. If you're watching it in a class, so you will be informed beforehand that you will have an oral communication class in the upcoming lesson. So you have to be prepared and participate in the lecture as good communicators. So this is an oral communication SLO. Next, lastly, we have the lecture of writing competency, where we will cover these three SLOs. First, write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective techniques, well-chosen details, and well-structured event sequences. So now, students, when we are talking about narrative writing, they can be real or imagined. So what is the difference between these two narratives, and how can we write them effectively? Then Develop and strengthen writing as needed by planning, revising, editing, rewriting, or trying a new approach, focusing on addressing what is most significant for a specific purpose and audience. So now we will try to understand the stages of writing. How can we revise, edit, and rewrite our draft to give a very good assignment and a very good to produce a very good writing. At the end, we will use paraphrasing skills to paraphrase a poem. We will see how we can paraphrase a poem not only in the prose form but also in the poetic form. As we talked about it, there are two kinds of paraphrasing. There are two ways to paraphrase any poem. So we will talk about that specifically, and we will try to paraphrase the given poem. This is all about all the lectures that we will be covering. So be prepared, dear learners. The upcoming lectures are very much important. I hope that you will ensure your attendance and you will watch these video lessons carefully. This is me, your instructor Zia Hamid. I will see you in the next lecture, in the very first lecture of this unit. Till then, take care of yourselves and Allah.